Hello, today we're going to introduce you to fractions. So you may have seen this before, but that's okay. This is just a quick revision, but if you've forgotten, pay attention very carefully. So a long time ago, people used to count things, and then after they counted things, they realized that they had to share things, and whenever they share things, they had to share things equally, and that's how they started using fractions. Especially when it comes to food, they had to share things very, very fairly. So they had to have equal pieces. So if I had a pizza and I cut it into 2 pieces, now they had to find a way to represent this. And if they took 1 piece and they cut into 2 pieces, they decided to represent it by a line and writing down how many pieces they cut it into and writing down how many pieces they were taking it. So if they cut it into 4 equal pieces, then they would write 4 at the bottom, and then whatever piece they would take, let's say they took 1, 2, 3, then they would write that at the top. So if they could take, for example, they could cut it, for example, into 6 pieces, and they might take 4 pieces. They will write that at the top. But we know our pizzas are cut into 8 pieces. So usually it's a fraction out of 8, and depending on how many you can eat, that number goes at the top. So fractions are always things that are cut into equal pieces. This is a half. This is also a half because the pieces are equal in size. This is a quarter. This is a third because it's cut into 3. This one over here is cut into 4, so it's 1/4. This is also cut into 4, but now we have 3 colored. This one is cut into 4 as well, but we have 2 colored. This one is cut into 5, and we have 1 colored. This one is cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, and we have 6 colored. So the number at the top represents how many is colored or how many we're taking, and the number at the bottom is how we're cutting it. The number at the top is called numerator, and the number on the bottom is called the denominator. So here we've cut the pizza into 4 equal parts, and we've taken 3. Now pizzas are usually made out of 8 slices, so the fraction that represents a pizza has 8 at the bottom because it's cut into 8 equal parts. Now for this fraction we have 1/8, 2/8, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. When the numbers match, we have a whole. So how does it change? When the numerator, the number on top, increases, we notice that we get more and more pizza. So we have more. However, when the number at the bottom increases, so we cut this one into 2, we cut this one into 3, we cut this one into 4, we cut this one into 5, we cut that one into etc, etc. As the number at the bottom increases, we notice that our piece is getting smaller and smaller. So when the number at the bottom gets really big, our piece gets really, really small. So it does the opposite to what the numerator does. But fractions is not just used for wholes, we can use fraction for groups. For example, if I had 12 little chickens and I wanted to take, let's say 1/6, then I would have to divide it into 6 equal groups. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So one of these is 1/6. I could also do 1/4, for example. If I wanted to do 1/4, then I would have to divide this into 4 equal groups. And I can do this easily by splitting it that way. So 1/4 is 3 chicks. One more example of the group, I could do, for example, 1/2. In that case, I need two groups. So one group here is a half, and there's the other group. Now, let's have a look at sharing more pizzas. What happens if I have one pizza divided by 3 friends? It can be represented like this, so each person would get 1 out of 3. What happens if I have 4 pizzas divided by 5 friends? So I would draw the 4 pizzas and I'll cut it into 5 pieces each and distribute them like so. So each pizza has been cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. And now every person, 1, 2, 3, 4, would get 4 pieces. So 4 out of 5. So whenever we divide by that number, that's what our denominator will be. What happens if I have 4 pizzas but only 3 friends? So the first 3 pizzas everybody can keep, and the last pizza has to be divided into 3. So now we can write it as each person will have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces that are the size of thirds. Or in other words, they have 1 piece and 1/3, 1 whole pizza and 1/3. We call this number improper fraction because the numerator is bigger than the denominator, whereas the numbers we had before, these are proper fractions because the numerator is smaller than the denominator. And then we have the other one is called mixed fractions, where you have our regular numbers, our natural numbers, and then we have a fraction with it. So these two things represent the same thing, but we can represent it as improper fractions or mixed fractions. So another thing I want you to know is using a number scale. For example, if I had to write a half, and this is 0, 1, 2, etc., 3, a half, I would go between 0 and 1 and make it into 2 pieces and count the top number 1, so the first indentation. If I had to do 3/4, for example, 0, 1, 2. To get to 3/4, I would go between 0 and 1. I would have to cut it into 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I would select the third one. So 1/4 is here, 2/4 is here, 3/4 is right here. Let's try another one. If I have, for example, 2/5, so again, that means I would have to cut it into 5 pieces. So we're going to try our best. 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 pieces. So now 2/5 will be 1/5 is here. 2/5 will be right there. So remember, cut depending on what the denominator is. And you can represent improper fractions or mixed fractions as well. Let's try, for example, 6/5. In that case, we know that it's going to be more than 1. So we're going to go all the way over here. So we're going to cut into fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now 6/5 would mean 1/5 is here, 2/5 is here, 3/5 is here, 4/5 is here, 5 out of 5 is 1, and now 6 out of 5 is right there. So these are the things you need to remember. Proper fractions, where the numerator is smaller than the denominator, or the top number is smaller than the bottom number. Improper fractions, that means more than 1. So the top number is bigger than the bottom number, or the numerator is bigger than the denominator. And we have mixed numbers, another way to write improper fractions, where we have the numbers and a little proper fraction. And don't forget that we also have to be familiar with number line.